Okay, good afternoon everyone. Well done for reaching the final session. It's not a test, but I have made a mental clock of all the people still here. Well done. You get a special tick at the end of the day. So we're at the final session, and this will be on challenges and opportunities for fashion manufacturing, and our chair is Sarah Angold. Hello, Sarah.
Hey.
And Sarah is a... Yes?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Fully agree.
I didn't even have to do anything with that.
No. Have we finished already? Who is a sustainable innovation consultant. Sarah is a multiple founder. She's been deeply involved with experimental, social and environmental tech innovation for a while. And she's also a mentor within Imperial College's accelerator and runs supper clubs that bring together MPs, academics, industry leaders. Are you sure it's not a massive fight? Is that
I like a good fight.
Sounds a bit dangerous.
I heard them.
and big brands to debate topics around fashion and sustainable transition. So I'll hand over to Sarah. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Well, I had the opening panel last year, now I've got the closing panel. I don't know what that means. Have I gone up in the world or down in the world?
Headlining.
Yeah. I like that. Everyone else was my warm-up act, apart from Adam Mansell. Anyway, it's great to be here to run this panel today and speak with you guys on this really important topic. Thank you so much for the intro. I don't need to introduce myself now, other than to add that since you last saw me, I started a new company that develops textiles for the fashion industry made out of agricultural waste. So that's the next thing I'm foraying into. But let me just hand straight over to my panellists to introduce themselves. We're going to do a quick round of intros, so just 1 minute each, and then we can dive into questions to learn more about you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Let's start down at the end.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amanda McLaren. I'm the Managing Director of Hainsworth. We're an 8th generation family business, 240-year-old mill, woolen mill, fully integrated, buried in the heart of Pudsey. Not too far from here. Serve many markets, quite diverse, which makes it challenging every day, feels like. So we go from fashion to interiors to protective fabrics to leisure fabrics to airline fabrics. All those markets having different dynamics, different customer behaviours, different aspects on topics like sustainability that certainly test our thinking on a daily basis.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, I'm Salli Deighton. I'm the founder of LaundRe. I've worked in the denim industry for far too long. I'm a Leeds girl. I'm from down the road from Pudsey. So I've got the very northern mouth, as you will learn.
It's going to be quite the panel, guys.
Honest too much. And I'm known for that in my industry as well, very much. I've been very outspoken about our denim industry. But I also work with a lot of groups that try and drive very positive change. I spent half of my life working in factories overseas and driving new technologies, and I found myself at ASOS a few years ago trying to reprocess a lot of unsold stock that they had in the warehouse, and we had a factory that wouldn't pass an audit in Bangladesh. So LaundRe is all about bringing nearshoring, reshoring, allowing brands to reprocess their unsold stocks, taking it back to sell it at an affordable cost, cheaper than Turkey, and also starting to enable them to reshore in small volume to stop them overbuying on MOQ just to get price. We're very cost effective because if you see on our video, we're very automated with ozone and laser. And we're going to be reshoring and driving change, I hope, very soon. We're nearly there.
Great stuff, thank you.
I'm Jamie Whitehouse. I'm also born and bred in Leeds. I'm the operations director at the boot repair company. Obviously, what we do is we fix shoes, fix boots as well. We do this for a number of brands in a number of different capacities. So we function as like an online repair shop where you can post your shoes into us. We'll fix them, post them back to you. We do that for a number of brands, and we also offer resale platforms for these brands. So, as we've talked about already in the discussion so far today, returns are a massive issue for the fashion industry, and footwear is no different. Thousands and thousands of pairs get sent to us every week. We clean, fix, sanitize, repackage, and then sell these products as second-hand, which is obviously great for the consumer. They get cheaper products. It's great for the environment, it's diverting shoes away from landfill, and it's obviously great for the brands as well, who get to shout about it and also turn this stream of waste into a profitable revenue.
Awesome, guys, thank you so much for your introductions. I want to dive right in by talking about upskilling. Now, we know that this represents a huge challenge in the fashion industry and beyond, but also a huge opportunity. Now, I want to talk specifically about the skills gap here, and I'm going to start with you, Jamie, because I know that you've got a mountain to talk about here. Talk about the skills gap that we're facing here in the UK with these new systems we're trying to, sort of reinvent around onshoring. What problems are we facing here, and what's the great opportunity to change?
Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, obviously, you don't see many high street cobblers anymore. That's ultimately the skills that we need in our business is cobbling and those sort of heritage artisan craft skills that are just really lacking. Not gone, but they are lacking. So we've sort of tried to foster a culture internally of upskilling and promoting people internally. I mean, myself and Dave, the marketing manager here today, we both started off at the boot company with very entry-level jobs, and we just sort of worked our way up through the company. We do the same thing for people starting off cleaning shoes. They end up becoming, highly skilled cobblers. We do obviously employ cobblers as well, but there's only so many in Leeds, and unfortunately they can't work from home from offices in London. So the next natural step for us is to start an apprenticeship programme, which we've just started to do in partnership with Leeds City College, and taking some cues from Doc Martens, one of our partners, who have a really great apprenticeship programme. And yeah, we've just done our first round of interviews, and we're hoping to start this in September, and we're hoping this will be a really great way to drive recruitment, drive upskilling. And yeah, I spoke to one of the people who we interviewed the other day, who's just talking about AI and everything. This girl was really, really highly qualified. She was doing an A-level in maths, physics, and chemistry, and she was applying for a shoe repair apprenticeship. And she was basically terrified that AI was going to replace her desk job, and she wanted to learn a trade. So there is an opportunity there for people that want to use their hands and sort of return back to that those tactile skills.
That's a really interesting point, and I mean this question isn't on my list, but that really raises the idea of education needing to change as well, landscape of how we teach the next generation needing to change. Have you guys seen that in reality, or got any comment on how that interaction is working with our institutions?
Yeah, go for it. Okay. Coming back to the topic of upskilling, I think there's three really key elements for a business to think about. One is the industry, textiles. How attractive is it to that next generation, and what do they really know about it? And I think that's education by businesses, by people within the sector who can pass on that positive message of what a cool industry it really is and what scale it really is in terms of size. The second is your business itself. So how do you get that person, that next generation, through the door and engage with your business? Because you have to have a narrative. It's not just about, the hourly rate that you're paying versus the guy up the street, but actually, what kind of a career am I really going to have here? So I think we've got to work really hard at training and development, coming back to your point. And training and development, historically in a textile mill was, some old guy with grey hair deciding how much you were going to tell the new guy who sat next to him. And actually, that's something we've had to overcome, whether it be our standard operating procedures, we've found them a bit wanting, whether it be the way that we've trained people in the past, we've had to reposition that and really think about how do we connect to that generation and retain them. So I think there's an awful lot of work to do for the business, to attack those three angles, really.
It sounds like it's going to take a lot of collaboration and potentially cross-disciplinary collaboration as well. Yeah,
I think so. I think certainly in terms of your business itself and what you can bring to that young person, because we've been on this journey for the last 3 years, and we've engaged with university, we've engaged with local schooling, we've engaged with local council, we've been on the career stands and things, and it has paid off. It does work, but it takes effort, and you've got to convert the thinking into actually we're a really great business to come and work for, and textiles is a super cool sector. So a lot of effort, I think, but it does pay off. We've got 29% of our workforce under the age of 35 now. I've got 200 staff.
That's a great stat, and that's a really hopeful and impressive stat for us to all take away. Because we know that we need to reinvigorate the industry with young people.
But without complacency as well. The job then goes to the manager to say, okay, what is the career path for those? That 29% of our workforce.
Yeah, amazing. And Salli, tell us about upskilling.
Yeah, no, it's really important in where we're coming from. It's like you say, it's like making the textile industry attractive. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a sexy laser machine operator? You get to create the most amazing graphics now. So, and then you push a button on a laser machine and you burn off our denim. It's not taught in any of the universities. I think there's a real mismatch at the moment. One of my friends, Motion, teaches a lot of the courses, and we often go in and judge like the students and their denim collections. Most of them are raw. The biggest part of sustainability and the biggest problem in our industry is the finishing, because there isn't any in this country. This is hopefully what we'll start to bring back as well. But we need to teach them how we make jeans. Yeah. A lot of designers have been employed and they think jeans are printed. And it's like, we're so out of sync. So yeah, who wouldn't want to be a laser designer? And I think somebody said about designers, the role is changing. Yeah, sure. We're product scientists. You know, we need to know how it's dyed, what the dye stuff is it going to react to the laser? It makes it cost effective. We have to engineer the garment into margin and cost to make sustainability work, and it can be done. And as again, it's like looking at the fibres. So guys who are working with regenerative cotton, we have to build products now with science underpinning everything and nature. Otherwise, we're completely out of sync, and that's what needs to be taught, and we need to encourage coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it makes total sense. And on that point, you know, I don't think there's any debate that technology is going to be a huge part of the fashion industry's manufacturing future, you know, here in the UK and further on. I wonder if you guys could talk to me a bit about how you might be embracing or seeing others embracing digital tools like AI, whether that's for streamlining production or accurate forecasting or any other use case that you might be using. Help us understand in these industries which can actually be very tangible, very physical. You know, we're talking about apprenticeships, we're talking about that artisanal craft. How can technology move in and support for a next generation of fashion without overtaking and crushing that sort of heritage skill that we already have?
So obviously cobbling and technology aren't two terms that often go hand in hand. But you know, ultimately we do have a fundamental problem, which basically the brands will send us all of these shoes and just go sort them out and give them back to us once they're fixed, once they're gleaming. We've still got to report on those shoes. We've still got to find out what SKUs they are so that we can generate new barcodes and new labels. So we're looking at implementing RFID so that we can label them up once and once only. And now that every time we need to try and find out what kind of shoe that is again, instead of having to look in the tongue and write down a code and look it up on a database, we just scan the RFID code and it tells us, because we only want to have to do that job once, and that will help us streamline massively.
How long have you been working with RFID?
We haven't. Well, we're sort of scoping it out at the moment, so we're in kind of like the late stages. So I went to go visit ACS Clothing, who some of you may know, who are sort of very similar to us, and their facility is full of RFID, and it's absolutely amazing. I just walked away thinking, we need to do that.
I've got some people to put you in touch with there. I've made a note. But no, I mean, it's fascinating. We think of these very tangible, traditional industries, and understanding how tech can be integrated there is so important. Salli, have you got... I mean, you're obviously working with, tech-based as well. Tell us more about that fusion.
Yeah, I feel we've been doing this for a long time in denim. We transited after the Rana Plaza incident. There was a big conference in certainly Bangladesh and Pakistan, and pressure on the suppliers to adopt all this new digital technology, ozone machines, laser technology. And we've been working with them. A lot of the buyers still don't know we work with them, but most of the machines, about 90% of the factories would have this technology now. And like you, we're at LaundRe, we're already sort of running a pilot with Made By, because we want to adopt that technology into us, the digital product passport, from day one, because we want to start leading by example and showing what can be done. Brands and everybody are asking us to be transparent, so we're going to be transparent. Why wouldn't we be? So we're trying to adopt that. And I see AI coming into play really, really strongly with us. So the pilot we have here is all the waste garments we refinished from a recycler. And the finishing process was really straightforward. Even we impressed ourselves. But the sorting of the garments and the assessing of the sizing and all those things, that's where we need help from AI, because that's the most cost-effective and cost-prohibitive part of this process. Yeah. Doing the job's easy, it's just the sorting and organisation.
Awesome. And before I move on to Amanda, can I just check everyone in the audience, are you familiar with digital product passport and RFID as terms? I can see some general nodding. Okay. Frequency, radio, identification. Okay, good. Collective audience support there, thank you very much. Essentially RFID is a bit like what you've got on your Oyster card or your credit card when you do contactless pay. So it's something that talks to something receptive in the area. God, I'm so technical. Okay, great, just making sure that was the case. Yeah, of course. So digital product passports is regulation that's going to be coming in the EU, which is going to require fashion items and materials to have essentially a digital tracking on them, so that we can make sure that right from the point where they're grown as agriculture through the supply chain to the point where they become products, and then potentially beyond. So beyond the point where you've got consumer use and then end of life, and we're able to track exactly what happens to these products in order to inform our decisions about how to do that better, but also to put the responsibility firmly on brands, particularly those who are overproducing, to have to deal with that kind of end-of-life waste, which is the big problem we've got at the moment.
Is that just clothing, or is that I'm in interiors? So would that cover that as well?
Selling into Europe.
Yeah.
Textiles selling into Europe.
Yeah, and it's coming in more broadly beyond textiles as well. So whilst the UK isn't bringing in this regulation yet, it doesn't matter, because if Europe is, then brands have to step up to that point. So this is going to be a really interesting new landscape for us. And, there are some really interesting startups as well in this space, doing everything from different kinds of RFIDs made from new materials that are sustainable to a guy I spoke with recently who's got a special kind of ink that's completely invisible and can track something throughout the supply chain. So this is again opening up huge opportunity for innovation. We think of sustainability sometimes as something that limits us, but actually the opposite is true.
And the difficulty for us in the sort of resale world is that we might be getting shoes or jeans that are 10 years old, and so the RFID or the digital product passport wasn't implemented when that product was made, and so we've got to find a way to then retrofit that. Which putting a chip in a shoe in manufacture is super easy. Putting a chip in a shoe post manufacture not so easy.
Got a solution for you on that.
Okay.
Anyway,
maybe it is easy. I'm just looking in the wrong places.
I've solved that for you. It's done.
Brilliant. Perfect. That's one off my list.
Amanda, give us your take on this question.
Yeah, look, we're an integrated woolen mill, so we start off with the wool off the sheep's back, and we end up with a piece of... I've got a prop, actually. Nobody else had a prop today, so I'm feeling pretty cool. We end up with a piece of cloth like this that's going onto a pool table or snooker table in the Far East for professional players to play on. And those players actually understand a nap. They understand the feel of that fabric, and they know that how the speed of the ball will actually act over that surface. And yet in my mill, we do it like this. Yeah, it feels about right, that. So I struggle with that, because I want a number. I want some form of objective measure that tells me that from batch to batch I've got absolute, universal finish that gives me absolute clarity. And also it gives us repeatability and efficiency during manufacture, because what we do and what we have done in our mill for many years is we want perfection. So for the ones that are not perfect, they become seconded, and that becomes wasteful, and that becomes costly. And actually, we may have a second stream market for it, but that's not good for our brand.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're trying to do is characterise in our own team how we get better at that, because, the old style black art, guy who stood there doing this, his calibrated thumb no longer exists. And actually, I believe that from generation to generation, that drifts anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's dangerous to do that. So, we are actively working on projects at the moment internally, to help us characterise our own manufacturing processes. So as we go through the stage of milling, what should that look like as a cloth at that point? And could you almost predict that by the end, after it's dyed and finished and dried and it's ready on a roll to sell, it's actually perfect. So,
and what would that process look like? High-level summary on the ground. You say you're working on these, potential innovations in order to be able to, really put numbers to the tactility of these fabrics.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So we didn't really have the facility to do this. Obviously, working with Steve and Tim and Ning Tao and researching things like this is helpful. But actually, we want some tools in line now. So So one of the things we've done recently is invested in an engineering centre. So we've brought software engineers in, we've brought mechanical engineers in, we've brought process engineers in, project engineers as well to help us run it. We've actually got a rig at the moment looking at coefficient of friction of surface finish on this fabric, where we're looking at how the speed of a weight moves across the nap. So we're able to take measurements, the speed of the weight moving across the nap. The nap,
What's the speed of a whip?
So some simple rig-ups that start. No, we're not that advanced. But yeah, we're looking at simplicity of testing batch to batch to batch. Internally using our own rigs, using our own setup, and being quite agile and flexible in our thinking, so that we can do some R&D, live online. And actually, we've learned quite a lot about our fabric in the last few months doing that. So there is a place for for moving forward and being much more objective in a manufacturing process, and I think that's absolutely where we will go for sure, and I'm sure other mills will be doing the same. The other thing you talked about there, and I was smiling, was about DPP and the work on that. Again, by investing in our technical team and bringing in in fact, one of my members of staff is here, Angela, at the moment, and she was smiling at me too, like a Cheshire Cat, because you're working on this right now, aren't you? So, we're kind of guinea pigs, I guess, to some degree, with the partners that we're working of getting the digital ink onto our fabric. Yeah. And to thinking about during the manufacturing process, at what point do you apply that so that it's got the robustness to take the whole process and be, as quality and as quantitative as it possibly can be at the end. So that's something we're also working on. So I think, when you go back to that 240-year-old mill that's really kind of at its black art manufacturing processes, we have to think differently. We have to think about waste. We have to think about productivity. We have to think about efficiency. We have to think about procedural control that's easier to understand and connect with for the next generation, and therefore easier to teach. And we have to think about protecting our own brand and having that, that high quality premium product that's repeatable, and in the process reduce the waste. Yeah. So, it's all connected.
It's really exciting to see these heritage brands that have sort of deep, habitual ways of doing things, really actually embracing the opportunity for technology and change, because it seems to me that is how we're going to solve these global crises that we have. Yeah. We're not going to solve it singularly or alone. We're going to solve it by working in this cross-disciplinary way and involving all the stakeholders in a way that's genuine. I feel like we've talked a lot about including all stakeholders for a number of years, but actually doing that in a way that you clearly are there, that seems really exciting to me. I want to dive into on-demand models. We know, we've mentioned in this panel, the huge challenge around waste in fashion supply chain. How do you think an on-demand model could work within your own businesses? And how do you see that being utilised for the good of the fashion industry? I'd love your takes on this. Shall I jump to you, Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, we don't actually make anything. We remake things, right? So
it's sort of inherently on demand, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I mean,
good tip next.
I mean, one of our sort of main KPIs internally is like how quickly we can turn around a pair of shoes that the customer sends in. If you want to commit to buying a repair, you don't want to be waiting a month for it. You want to be getting it back right away. So, for example, we've worked really hard to get the Doc Martens repair service as quick as possible. That's now 3 days from the moment it arrives to the moment it goes out the door. Wow. And on top of that, it's on demand in a slightly different way. We're trying to really lean into sort of customization as part of repair as well. Mm-hmm. So that you're not just you're not just repairing like for like. You're adding your own twist and your own version to that shoe, and you actually get people that send in their shoes that are brand new, but they want to put on a different coloured sole or a different thread or a different welt.
Oh, I'm going to do that.
Get your Doc Martens in. So again, it's not quite on-demand manufacturing, but it's trying to do our own version of on-demand. Bespoke, and exactly.
Super interesting.
Yeah, on-demand's interesting. I mean, our model is built around 500 units and less, because if brands start buying over that, we're not as cost effective. They can go overseas and do it. So we're trying to give them the ability to finish or refinish small quantities in the UK. So we've built the laundry around different sized machines to be more efficient. And obviously the laser machine is really quick and easy. And ozone now, not having to use as much water and chemicals, that's a really quick and fast process. So the whole time has come down. We haven't reinvented this. This is something that's been around, but we've just pulled it all together. And then we've had loads of inquiries about, could I send my jeans back to you? Could you just change the finish and send it back? So I think as we move forward and we establish our model, there's a piece around, yeah, maybe we can do one piece and special orders and things like that. We really want to help small sustainable brands grow, and they have a real problem in accessing small manufacturing at the moment. They can't do it. So hopefully we can do 20 pieces for them and like encourage small businesses and positive ones to grow.
That agility is so important. It's great to hear. Amanda?
Yeah, it's a tough one for us. I mean, to some degree, we have stock lines, and those are available to any customer that comes on, especially on interiors and fashion. The other markets are more tricky. It's technical fabrics, or it's purpose fabrics for say, airlines. Or PPE, so a little bit more difficult. But I think for us, it's about agility in our manufacturing process. It's about being as slick and lean as we can be. Coming back to some of the things I've just said, reducing that downtime, because the minute that you have a rejection of a batch, and it could be quite a significant rejection, you've got to build that back in, and it kicks everything out on a planet scale. So it's harder to go back to customers and extend lead times and disappoint them. So we've got to get better at that, which is what we're currently working on. And by having the technology of right first time and being able to articulate our processes better, we'll have better throughput and better productivity, which brings down lead times. So I think that's really key. I think there's another aspect, which is relationships with our customers. We're 23 million revenue business. We've got hundreds of product lines and 7 different sectors to serve. So the relationship with the customer is really important, getting their forecasts, getting their visibility. Similarly, back upstream with supply chain, being really agile in both directions so we can respond. So I would say it's probably more difficult for us to articulate what on-demand really means. But I think as a business, our focus really is on that partner of trust and brand, and also being able to offer the market a good, reasonable lead time for a high-quality premium product.
Yeah, and actually it sounds like the R&D that you're doing, this facility that you have, that's something that you are exploring, maybe not specifically on demand as such, but essentially what you're doing is driving to that place, right?
Yeah,
where what you're producing is what is needed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear. I have one more question left, and I have actually changed it slightly. Sorry, Giorgio. Sorry, panel. I was sat here a year ago having a similarly great conversation, and actually, Jamie and Amanda, I spoke with you guys then, and we were talking very hopefully about the landscape in UK manufacturing and what it looked like. And so what I wanted to actually ask you as a final question was actually how you think the landscape of UK manufacturing, and particularly, talking about repairing, recycling, repurposing, how's that changed in the last year? Where do you think it's come to? And do you feel hopeful?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's changed in a few ways. I mean, the brands that we work with have really been doubling down. The brands that we've already established and have businesses with, are really trying to lean even harder into it. They can see the positives and the benefits of resale and repair, which is great to see. I'm not sure about it. I'm trying to think.
We'll come back to you.
Come back to me, yeah.
Yeah. That was my fault. I like to keep you on your toes. It's like the last panel of the session. Salli?
Yeah, I think the market in denim's definitely changing. I mean, denim's a real oxymoron. It's stupid. We spend hours and lots of chemicals, energy and everything creating used jeans when we're sat on piles of waste that's beautiful used jeans that we can just clean. So our industry is definitely seeing a shift. We were really fortunate to show in Amsterdam at the Denim Fair last week, and we had incredible brands coming up saying, this is fantastic, and we're showing in front of all the mills that are selling new fabric, showing like used jeans as a potential raw material for refinishing and circularity. And we've been approached from brands like Dior who've said, we want to collaborate, we want to look at how we address our waste and upcycle and create new jeans. Even New Look, I'm naming names, but Sue's lovely, has said,
Force of nature.
Yeah, if we can get vintage in New Look, oh my God, could we do a top store trial? Could we try this? We're working with River on their waste. It's like, there's definitely a shift, and the consumers are shifting. Younger people are much better at shopping than we were. And I think Matt and the guys at Reskinned, the recycler we've been working with, I think they've seen a 70% uptake, an increase in the shopping habits. And they're getting older consumers as well, starting to shop like reuse. So it's coming. There's a wave coming.
It's great to hear, because it's all very well listening to the stats that we see from McKinsey and Business of Fashion, which all seem very positive, but actually hearing on the ground that people who are here running their businesses and making money in this space are seeing that drive forward is really exciting. What are you seeing in the changing of the landscape here? And do you feel hopeful?
Yeah, fashion's a smaller sector for us than some of our other application
We'll
types.
talk more broadly, that's fine.
But broadly, I would say probably not as much pushback as what we might expect at this point. However, from our perspective, we feel really quite positive about our waste streams and actually the UK landscape for repurposing and recycling and turning that waste into something else. Whether that be yarn, whether it be back into, filling, or whether it be, going into a different purpose altogether. So, we feel quite optimistic and quite excited about the potential and the stories we can tell back and the stats we can push back and the important information on our sustainability journey that it'll generate. So we're really excited about it. In fact, we've just, for the first time in our mill, certainly, we've just employed a dedicated division on sustainability to work on this per se, really, from a waste stream perspective, both internally, but more or less, at the end of line, what do we do? What role can we play? Yeah. And I think there's a whole landscape out there of opportunity.
There is.
Well,
so hearing
really
you guys talk,
actually,
about the way you're thinking about this, not just from, we've got this plan, here's our line, but you're like, we could do this, we're exploring this.
For sure.
That conversation makes me feel excited that there are so many opportunities. And did you have a final thing you wanted to add before I round up? How many minutes have I got?
2.
Got it.
Just
you
to
can
kind
have
of riff
1.5.
off. Okay, great. Just riff off what you guys are saying. We know that like billions of pairs of shoes are going to landfill every year. We know that millions of tons of clothing and garments are going to landfill every year. And so we know that we haven't got a supply issue, right? And then, as we've been speaking about, Gen Z in particular are buying, second-hand goods. I'm wearing second-hand goods. Anybody else wearing second-hand clothing or buy second-hand? Look at
judgment.
we haven't got a supply issue. We clearly don't have a demand issue. We've just got to sort that middle bit out. Take all the shoes and the clothes that are already here, that are already landed in the UK.
It's a systems issue.
That just need cleaning, fixing, and doing that in a compelling and commercial way that actually ends up making money. Because at the end of the day, we all got to make money, haven't we? So as long as we can fiddle that middle bit, which I think we're all examples of businesses that can do it, and there's countless others as well. I think it's a really exciting space, and there's lots of opportunity there.
Well, how great to speak to 3 people who are in that very space of solving these systems challenges. And in summary, I was hoping I'd be able to take a message of hope from this, but actually even more sort of strongly and passionately than I had imagined. This feels like a space where things are moving really fast and where we have the opportunity to really be able to capitalise on not just new ways of thinking and new systems, but new technology. And it's great to hear how we can, new technology isn't just being integrated into sort of new systems. We're actually looking at how we can take artisanal craftsmanship, how we can take the industry as is, and how we can take those heritage companies as well and really be able to kind of bring those two together in a real fusion of collaboration, which to me feels super, super exciting. And I'm excited to be able to sit here and say that does feel really hopeful, right? That does feel like the future. And, for me, I think that cross-disciplinary collaboration as well, and that multi-stakeholder collaboration feels really important. It's been a weird few weeks or even a couple of months, I think, with, the collapse of Mansell, which has really reverberated through the market. I was planning to touch on that, but we've been chatting too much to have time. But I think that we're in a tough landscape. We're in a landscape where new ways of doing things are not necessarily supported by systems, by industry, by business, or by investment, as we talked about earlier on. But yet, in that tough landscape, what are we seeing? We're seeing success. We're seeing co-creation. We're seeing giant leaps forward towards a future-fit fashion industry. And so I'd like to leave you on that note of great hope. And, of course, that's why we're all here today, right? What does FFF do? Yeah. It brings those people together to create those new systems. That's what this is all about. And so, for me, that's a perfect note to end on. Thank my panellists very much for all your wonderful insights. I think we have a minute for questions, or do we not? Or is that me done? Chop, chop, chop. Okay, no questions. Hopefully we answer anything. Over to Adam.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Now, I'd like to introduce our final speaker. Adam Mansell, who is would be known to many of you as the CEO of UKFT, which is the UK Fashion and Textile Association, of course. Brings together designers, represents businesses across the supply chain, spinning, weaving, garment manufacture, just about everything. And Adam, for his sins, has also been the chair of Future Fashion Factory since the beginning. So I owe a lot to Adam for helping it to be steered in the correct manner. So, Adam, it's with great pleasure that I ask you to take the stand. Thank you,
Steve. Nothing I'm wearing is second-hand, but everything I'm wearing is made in the UK. Including me. Before I do the final words, for those of you that haven't been into the other area of where there's the demonstrator and the poster session, please do go and have a look. There's some amazing feedback from what we've all been doing. So have a look into seminar rooms 1 and 2, and we might just stop you having a glass of wine until you've been into those rooms. Steve said, I'm Adam Mansell, and my day job is being the Chief Exec of UKFT. And I've also been the chair of the Future Fashion Factory Steering Group and the chair of its investment committee for the past 5 years. And I've got really mixed feelings standing up here because I'm always delighted to be able to talk about FFF and the amazing impact that it's had in the industry. But this is probably our last event under the current arrangements. So I'm quite sad that the programme's coming to an end. Now, back in 2018, Steve approached me wanting UKFT's backing for a bid to the AHRC Creative Industries Cluster Programme. Now, I agreed, but I have to confess I did so with some reluctance. I thought this would be yet another academic project that talked a good game about supporting industry, but that actually would hoover up all the money and it would all be spent on some really interesting academic research, but none of it would touch industry. I was wrong. Completely, utterly, and totally wrong. Whichever way you look at FFF, it has been an outstanding success. The original grant of £5.4 million led to an additional leverage funding of £45 million. FFF has driven a horse and cart through the idea that universities don't work to support industry. We've given out £1.6 million to 55 responsive R&D projects, many of which are here today. And a large amount, as we heard in the first session, a large amount of that £45 million came from subsequent investment raised by early stage startups following support from FFF. And those included Amphico, Matera, Ponda, Hydro Athletics, amongst others. And as you're all in this room, you probably take it as a given the importance of R&D and innovation in driving business growth. But I think it's worth trying to put some sort of value on R&D, on the importance of R&D. And there's been several studies that have looked at this. Research by the Institute for Fiscal Studies estimated that the return for an R&D project was between 7 and 14%. The Department for Business studied the relationship between R&D and profits and found that those businesses that regularly invested in R&D were 13% more productive than firms that didn't. Some of you will have heard me speak here earlier in the year about one of the enormous pieces of research that UKFT commissioned last year. It was a research into the size of the industry conducted for us by Oxford Economics. And that research not only showed that the fashion and textile sector was extremely important to the UK economy, contributing 63 billion in GVA, employing 1.2 million people and delivering 23 billion pounds in tax take. But the report also found that the impact of R&D spend on productivity for the fashion and textile sector was significant. Now, our sector over the past 10 years has invested something like 1.4 billion pounds in R&D. And our report estimates that will generate productivity gains equivalent to a GDP boost of around £550 million. And of course, those gains in R&D, that's not only there for the fashion and textile sector. Again, our analysis shows that somewhere around 73% of those gains will be in the sector, but 27% of those gains will filter out for the whole economy, throughout the whole economy. And our report looked at not just the value of R&D spend, but also at the barriers. What is stopping us spending more money on R&D? And unsurprisingly, there were two main barriers. One was the lack of funding for R&D, and the second one, and we've touched on this throughout the day really, was the lack of skills and knowledge within the industry to exploit the funding that was available. And we then looked at what the impact would be if we removed those barriers. And we found that removal of those barriers could increase the fashion and textiles sector total economic contribution by an additional £3.5 billion. We could create another 68,000 jobs in the UK, and we could stimulate another £1.3 billion in tax take. And I genuinely believe that the Future Fashion Factory has shown how the barriers to take-up of R&D can be overcome, and how relatively modest amounts of funding can be leveraged to a quite remarkable degree. FFF has shown how if you put industry need at the heart of an R&D network, you get meaningful results. FFF has not only leveraged cash, it's also been phenomenally successful in leveraging academic research to solve industry's challenges. That's led to new processes, new products, and new markets. Now, I'm not quite sure that the road to Leeds is the same as the road to Damascus. But having started as a cynic, I am a true zealous convert to the possibilities offered by collaborative R&D. And I'm convinced that one of the things that made FFF so successful is the provision of that brokerage service that helped companies shape how they put together the funding bid. Innovation funding and writing of bids is challenging, and most companies don't have the experience about how to do it and how to do it successfully. And I've said that the achievements and the impact of FFF have been significant, and I'm delighted that much of its work will actually continue, even though the AHR-funded element of it is coming to an end. As well as the Future Fashion Factory, the AHR Creative Clusters programme also supported the University of the Arts-led Business of Fashion and Textiles and Technology. They don't have quite as cool a name as we did, but those two clusters have come together and are looking at how they can shape the research agenda for the future of the fashion and textile industry. You'll know that as well as investing in helping businesses overcome innovation challenges, FFF also looked at the importance of addressing skills gaps. The Textile Centre of Excellence has done some fantastic work in a number of areas, including helping the manufacturing sector in Yorkshire in particular understand the opportunities around Industry 4.0. But there's a massive ongoing demand for education and training providers, universities and colleges, to deliver new courses that meet the demands of industry, particularly when it comes to innovation and sustainability. And it's extremely encouraging that following on from the work under FFF, Leeds has launched a new BSc, not a BA, in textile sustainability and innovation that's going to start in September this year. And Huddersfield University, one of our academic partners, is about to launch a CPD programme for industry on sustainability. And at UKFT, we're also looking at this. You may not know this, we're the sector skills body for the industry, which basically means we're appointed by the government, both in Westminster and in the nations, to look after vocational qualifications. And we're looking to see whether we can embed sustainability and innovation into all new qualifications that are coming on stream. It's great to see that UKRI have seen the importance of supporting the fashion and textile industry, both through funding calls such as the Creative Catalyst, the funding, for instance, of the Robotics Living Lab up in Manchester, and also the £15 million Circular Fashion programme. As well as supporting developments in recycling, again, we touched on it just at the last session, for instance, the UKFT-led ACT recycling programme. The Circular Fashion programme is also funding 3 new university and industry-led consortia that will help embed research into the development of new solutions that will use science to embed environmental baselines so that we can understand where we are now and where we need to get to and how we can measure that in a meaningful way. Now, there are 3 consortia, one led by Northumbria, called Impact Plus, one led by Exeter University, called Future Fibres, and the third one is called Back to Baselines, and that's led by Leeds. And continuing that push around collaborative R&D, each of those networks has a pot of around £700,000, so that's 3 times £700,000, to drive collaboration between university and industry. And I hope that businesses in the FFF network will be at the forefront of using that opportunity to identify data challenges, baseline challenges, challenges around standards. And if you want to know more about the opportunities under the Back to Baselines, do see any of the team from Leeds over a glass of wine. The other thing I'd say about the funding within Future Fashion Factory, it's not just about the funding, it is about the network. There's 600 odd companies in our network, and the broader network is even bigger than that. All I will say at this point about money is do keep a very close eye on news that might be coming out from the Future Fashion Factory very soon. But back to the achievements of the Future Fashion Factory. None of it would have been possible without the amazing team here at Leeds. So to Steve, to Sue, to Susie, to Giorgio, and the amazing team behind them, a huge thank you, both individually and collectively. We really couldn't have done it without you. FFF was a collaboration of universities, which in itself is quite an achievement. So my thanks to the academic partners that took place, took part in FFF, Huddersfield, RCA, and latterly Manchester Met. My thanks too to everyone else on the steering committee and on the investment committee for all of their support for all of our activities. Our thanks, of course, to AHRC and to UKRI, both for the cash, but also, and importantly, for the amazing personal support that we've had from people like Joe from AHRC and others. And finally, a thank you to the industry, because without the industry taking that leap of faith, deciding that collaborative R&D is a way in which they can help drive productivity, FFF wouldn't have been the success that it has been. So with my newfound belief in the power of collaborative R&D, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the new iteration of FFF will deploy the Network Plus funding. Also keep an eye on what might be coming out. And I hope that I'll be here again in a few years' time to tell you about the amazing impact that that extra funding, the Network Plus funding, has had both on individual companies and on the industry as a whole. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Adam. Very kind of you to just finish off, and I really appreciate that and the words that you said then. And I just want to add my thank you to all our industrial partners, everyone who's here today, all the industrial partners I hope to work with in the future as well, and to my academic colleagues who, are busy people, but were willing and really took up the challenge to work on some quite challenging projects as well that we've worked on over the years. I think there are some exciting times to come, and there will be some new announcements, as Adam has mentioned, I believe. But it remains for me now just to thank you again, to wish you a really good evening. Try and enjoy what's left of the sunshine, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much, everyone.